Signori, allora, introduzione veloce perché sarà un video lungo, come avete visto, di recente vi siete beccati dei video un po' cortini, ma capirete, tra centro e tra l'altro oggi e anche ieri sono uscito. Inusuale, no? Uscire, e quindi come dire, non ho potuto registrare normalmente, e quindi aggiungete pure il procrastinare, avete il mix perfetto. Comunque, allora, vabbè, capirete pure che fare su e giù, su e giù, su e giù quando ti vuoi totalmente stare proprio fermo in Calabria, come dire, non è la migliore delle sensazioni. E quindi, quindi sì, ragazzi, allora vi dico un paio di cose. Allora, io non vi voglio lasciare a pancia vuota, perché a pancia, vabbè. Ragazzi, io giuro, voglio fare un altro video sui Wojak. Io ce l'ho l'idea, e il problema è che li voglio fare di storia, però come dire... Mm. Non lo so, però se è ancora storia italiana, cioè perché... Va... vabbè, però come dire, vedremo, ragazzi. Non lo so, si vedrà, si vedrà. Ma noi nel frattempo stiamo qua. Signori, oggi ci reagiamo a Dantevius. Allora, in realtà proprio stamattina avevo provato a registrare, sì, un video reaction a Dantevius, però su un altro video. Però Popo mi hanno fermato, dice devi uscire, devi andare. Popo, quell'uscita che ho fatto di pomeriggio, e quindi sì, è andato tutto, è crollato tutto. E invece oggi ci reagiamo ad un altro video, quello che volevo uscisse domani. Vi dico che ho già, sì, mi sembra che ho già il sostituto. Forse domani lo sapete che vi beccate due video, però mi sa che domani c'ho il centro, però, vabbè, vedremo. Però domani due video. E ragazzi, oggi ci reagiamo ad un altro iceberg. Ah, tra l'altro, parlando di video editati, sì, c'è quello là di... ho pensato pure, tutti ci uniscono alla battaglia, lo posso fare sì, sì, posso farlo il nuovo, tutti ci uniscono alla battaglia. Eh, vedrò, vedrò quando farlo, ok? Potrei farlo sul tablet, e che però, cioè, vabbè, vedrò, ragazzi, vedrò. Intanto, allora, ragazzi, da Davius oggi ci ragiona un altro suo iceberg. L'iceberg, signori, abbiamo fatto 4chan, oggi parliamo di un altro social media che, come dire, il social media, ragazzi, dopo TikTok e Discord, il social media che sta rovinando la mia vita, ha preso il posto di quei due ma è lui quello che sta rovinando la mia vita, signore e signori. Reddit, l'iceberg dei post disturbanti di Reddit, pubblicato a Capodanno 2021. Ragazzi, Reddit, un social che sì, mi sa che in realtà uso ancora, sì, uso in realtà ancora, sì, più a lungo di tutti quelli che ho menzionato, tipo Discord, sì, perché mi sembra che lo uso dal 2020, cioè, quindi forse pure il 2019, vabbè. Allora, aspetta, e tra l'altro, vabbè, è una lore tra l'altro molto lunga, perché Reddit mi sembra che inizialmente lo seguivo, sì, per tipo i vari post che facevano gli YouTuber, tipo, che ne so, Gabby 16 bit, come si chiama? Ah sì, Bad the Worst, Tearless Raptor, iNoob, questi sono quattro YouTuber che, come dire, con i loro subreddit mi hanno fatto veramente coinvolgere. Poi vabbè, uno ad uno sono morti. Mi sembra che solo gli Anub siano ritornati a guardare il loro subreddit con Vaccino che è ritornato. E tutti gli altri, ma era il 2020 comunque, ragazzi, cioè per dirvi. quindi sì, vabbè, e adesso mi unisco, sto su altri subreddit, tipo, quindi, è come dire ragazzi, purtroppo, un po' come TikTok o Discord, alla fine è degenerata la situazione, perché su Reddit, come dire, con ogni suo altro social, ragazzi, è un po' fatto di matti, e ragazzi, oggi vedremo, aspetta, mi ero distratto. Comunque, stavo a dire, mi sa che sto dicendo che Reddit, come dire, come ogni social media ha le sue mattanze, il suo lato oscuro, e ovviamente, e come dire, e oggi lo andremo a vedere, visto che con questi post disturbanti. Vabbè, ragazzi, scusate, il progresso mi fa scordare cosa stavo dicendo, inizio.
How's your day
No.
going? Is it going good? Well, I can
No!
pretty much guarantee that by the end of this video, that's not going to be the case, okay? If you finish watching this video all the way through, the rest of your day is going to be ruined. So maybe just, watch it at night before
Allora,
bed. Actually, no, don't do that either because you might not be able to sleep. Anyways, I'm Dantavius.
va
How you
bene.
doing? And this is the
Io non
Disturbing
ho
Red
paura di
Post Iceberg
niente.
Explained. If you're unfamiliar with what an iceberg chart is, it's basically a way to sort information from most known to least known. That's all you need to know. Now, the posts that I'm going to be discussing in this video can range anywhere from creepy to disgusting to just outright insane. Like, you're going to be disturbed in multiple ways. Some of these entries will keep you up at night and others will make you want to vomit. That being said, if
Vabbè.
you're easily grossed out, easily
Pure il
creeped out,
counter
or are
di
sensitive to...
detto questo, eh. Lo sapete che ho un po' una sorta di tic quando parlo, è il ma però, o però, vabbè. Anche il vabbè, il vabbò è il mio tic da almeno tipo 7 anni, cioè ce l'ho, non ce l'ho da tanto, ok?
topics, I would highly suggest you do not watch this video. All right, I'm warning you now. I'm going to be talking about some deep topics such as essay and a grape without the G, and people getting their things like that. And this
Su Reddit. Ah, avevo provato pure a fare, sì, la reaction pure alle comunità disturbanti. Peccato che il Mobizel mi sia crashato mentre sto per finire il video, dannazione.
Some of this stuff is rough even for internet veterans like me. That being said, I'm going to try
Allora,
to be extremely careful to not get this video restricted like the last one. So I'm censoring a lot of words. I'm also tiptoeing and being careful with the way I word things because that's just what you have to do these days, unfortunately. So I'm going to be skipping a lot of entries as well because they're either too inappropriate or they're just boring or I don't want this video to take up the whole rest of my 20s, alright? Because I have a feeling it's already going to be pretty long. I'm not going super in depth either on most of these topics just because, the reasons I gave just now. If you want to explore these topics further, Justin Wang, Nexpo, and the Debunk File have all
ah,
done
boh, sì,
videos
sì,
on pretty
sì.
much every one of these topics, so shout out to them. Oh, also, I know I said I wasn't going to do another iceberg video. And second of all, I hyped this up saying this was going to be my last iceberg video ever. Yeah, I was pretty explicit about that. But since YouTube shafted me on my last one, I decided I was going to make another one because I want to go out.
Organizzazione. Oddio. Ok. Prossimo video, l'iceberg sulle organizzazioni. No, in realtà ce l'ho il video per domani, però l'iceberg delle organizzazioni criminali è figo. Io ve lo ripeto, ragazzi, sto qua, ho pure fatto un video sulla P2. No, io ho un'idea. Il video sulla P2 ce lo reaggiamo una festa della Repubblica, ok? Un 2 giugno ci reaggiamo al video sulla P2, ok?
The bang, okay? If this is gonna be my last iceberg video, I want people to actually watch it. So let's stop wasting.
Mi sembra che il tuo video sia proprio... Aspetta. Ah, l'ha tolto il video sulle organizzazioni criminali, quindi non ce lo potremmo reagire. Cazzo! Ah, tra l'altro ha fatto pure un video sul caso Schettino. Oh mio Dio, raga. No, è che ragazzi io devo... È che no, sembrano proprio i video perfetti da guardare con qualche amico. Appena avrò un amico, almeno solo uno, ok,
Time with
basta.
the intro and jump right in. The evil farming game. We're starting off pretty light with this one. So back in 2018, a post gained a lot of traction on the Tip of My Joystick subreddit. This guy was looking for a game that he played back in 2006, and he was saying it was similar to Stardew Valley, except with a twist. You murdered your wife and then tried to pretend like...
Ho visto parte del video già, però... Cioè, mi ricordo magari tipo... Mi sa solo questa, però, cioè...
Never offed her. And this was the whole game. You keep farming and making sure nobody finds out you killed her. There was also a fishing minigame, and he specifically remembered fishing up evidence for the wife's, passing away. Another user in that thread pointed out that somebody else asked a similar question about 3 years before, and he said, I know almost nothing about this game. All I can remember is that it's similar to Harvest Moon, but with a dark twist. The game starts out with you and your wife. One night you get into a fight and you end up stabbing her. Now, the game revolves around you farming and trying to stay alive while trying to keep the town from finding out about the incident. Now, many people were intrigued by this game because honestly, it sounds cool as shit. So many Reddit users were scrambling trying to figure out what this mythical game could possibly be. Some people said it could have been a Flash game, others were saying it was maybe an RPG Maker game. One guy even suggested it could be a dream. Bro, I'm sorry, but if you're dreaming about playing farming sims, you really need to reevaluate your life.
Cioè, non può, che ne so, nei sogni puoi sognare, sogni di giocare ai cosi, ai simulatori di fattoria, cioè... Che ne so, sai, qualche mamma di Facebook, tipo.
highly doubt that this is true. Anyways, there was a lot of theories, and also a few people who said they also played similar games. But after many years of no luck, it was finally discovered what the game was. And it wasn't even a game at all. So back in June of 2015, the streamer Vinesauce Joel was streaming the game global.
Mamma mia, Vinesauce, come dire, sono uscite tante clip da quel canale. Io mi ricordo... Allora, c'era un periodo in cui andavo pazzo dei tipo video dove tipo provavano dei virus informatici sui computer. Non so perché. Andavo pazzo per i virus informatici. Io non so nemmeno perché, ma ci andavo pazzo per qualche motivo. Andavo a cercarli e... Cioè, come dire, un po' strana questa passione, ma un po' di nicchia, però... Vabbè, in realtà ci sono tanti video dedicati, cioè, come dire... E vabbè, comunque, sì, me li guardavo video del genere, oppure lui che andava nei vari siti un po', come dire... Però sì, come dire, è un canale che ha fornito molte clip.
Defense Force when he came up with an idea for a creepy version of Harvest Moon.
It sounds like Harvest Moon, but with like corpses. It sounds like that'd be a fun game. Just playing as Harvest Moon, but throughout all of the gameplay, you gotta hide a dead corpse. You know what? You know what? No, fuck. You know what it is? Harvest Moon. It's just regular Harvest Moon with your wife. And midway in the game, you have an argument with your wife, and you accidentally kill her with I don't know, like a saw blade. No, fuck it. You kill her with like a barbecue kebab rack. You impale her accidentally, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't mean that. And at the same time, as you gotta rescue, you gotta manage your farm. Raise your chickens and milk the cows. You also gotta
praticamente sono troppo stitico di capa, cioè. Lui è troppo stitico per fare lo stronzo.
Hide the body from the cops sometimes.
That sounds vaguely similar to the original description of the game by Sparta. Turns out Sparta admitted that he would frequently fall asleep to Vinesauce videos. Will lather me up in pancake batter and suck me on a bed of lettuce. The dream guy was actually right the whole time. I would have never thought that. Now, this still doesn't explain all of the other people who claim to have played this game, but I think we can just chalk it up to some Mandela effect false memory bullshit. Colby 2012.
Colby 2012.
This is referring to an Ask Reddit post with the title, I think my teenage son may have or dog. I'm not sure what to do. Help me, Reddit. Good grief, man. This is only the first layer? What the f... Now, I blurred out one of the words in there, but I think you can figure out what it is through context clues. In case you need another clue, this act was very popular in the city of Sodom. Anyways, here's the...
Oh mio Dio, no! Oh mio Dio! Oh mio Dio, Allora, ragazzi, credo che una delle cose che ho realizzato su internet è che... Ma perché... Cioè, all'internet piace le perversioni sessuali. Cioè, io non posso aprire... Cioè, cioè, su internet, ragazzi, io ho già sentito tante storie di cioè, pedofilia soprattutto pedofilia, praticamente... Che vabbè, ragazzi, capirete. Prima che so, per fare il pedofilo dovevi avere il camion, no? Dovevi andare al parco, offrire le caramelle, no? Ora per fare il pedofilo basta che tu c'è un computer, non scrivi, e poi letteralmente, cioè, Madonna santa. Ma soprattutto, ma poi a zoofilia, cioè, ma che... Ma cosa c'è di... Ma come fate a... come potete trombare dei cosi, dei cavalli? Cioè, cioè, perché i cavalli? Vabbè, oppure i cani, cioè, mamma mia, mamma mia,
Very short rundown. This guy's dog was acting weird, so he decided to take it to the vet. The vet said that the dog got anally brutalized, so he started looking for clues, trying to figure out who could do this to a dog. While he was conducting his investigation, he went to his son's computer and noticed that he had been watching some naughty videos, alright? Naughty videos involving animals. After confronting his son, he eventually fessed up to violating the dog with a hairbrush. So the dad decided he wasn't going to tell the kid's mom, and he was going to let his son go to a therapist, and hopefully this would all blow over. Spoiler alert, it did not blow over. The dad caught the son being inappropriate again a few months later, so he decided to get the mom involved this time. Now, the mom was obviously pissed that he kept this from her, and when she confronted her son, he denied everything. So she then flipped it around on the husband and accused him of A being the dog. But she would later come to find out that this was not the case because, surprise, surprise, there was another incident. This time, the dog decided to stand up for himself and bit the kid twice. At this point, the mom apologized for everything, but the dad decided he was going to move out with the dog. Now, the story stopped there for a while until the dad gave an update a few years later, saying his relationship with his son had improved, but he no longer had any contact with his wife. Bro, I don't know if I could ever look at my son in the eye after that. Like, imagine hanging out with other dads and one's like, oh, my son's going to MIT, my son's going to play baseball professionally, and then you're just like, oh, yeah, my son hasn't stooped the dog in over a decade, huh? Pretty cool. Also,
mamma mia, mamma mia, ragazzi, poi ma, no, necrofilia un po' estremo magari la necrofilia, quello, la si fa, però zoofilia e pedofilia sono altrettanto brutte, però su internet ormai sono ultra mega diffuse,
how
cioè.
bad is his wife if he still talks to his son after stooping a dog? She must have done something really screwed up for him not to talk to her anymore. Anyways, let's move on, man. This is freaking gross. The key lime pie rabbit hole. This one is truly a rabbit hole. Like, I'm not even going to scratch the surface of this. Like, people have made
Oh.
hour-long videos on this topic, but I'm going to try to sum it up in less than 3 minutes. So, starting back in 2009, there was a bunch of strange comments left on the comment sections of different blogs and forums. These comments were reviews of a restaurant called Coochie's Key West Cafe. Now, the weird thing about this is that Coochie's Cafe had been closed for 3 years before this person started posting. And the weirdness only just starts there. The poster also frequently mentioned their famous key lime pie, even though I've never heard of them, so they can't be that famous. And also, the place apparently wasn't even known for their key lime pie. Like, they never even advertised it. They advertised, like, burgers and steaks and stuff, but never key lime pie. The accounts posting these comments typically had names of celebrities.
Ah, ok, praticamente tipo dicevano, ah, abbiamo la torta al lime, invece non ce l'avevano.
Like Jimmy
Ok.
Buffett, and would continue to post until about 2017. As the years went on, the comments got weirder and weirder and started taking on more sexual undertones. Let me give you an example.
If explode you want, then cut your skill and pie you must eat. Increase blood capacity by 500 it will.
Now, there is a ton of speculation.
Ragazzi, come vedete ho cambiato postazione dell'una e manca ancora un po' per il video. Vaffanculo Reddit. E avete visto pure... Ok, però, creatore. Torniamo al video, va. Avete visto cosa fa Reddit a un essere umano?
About these posts. Theories range from an autistic guy in his basement typing nonsense to coded messages
Sono
left by
rimasti alla torta al lime,
the CIA.
comunque.
And people have read have
La
dedicated
scia. Babbo, come sempre la scia, no? Ogni volta che succede una cosa, la scia, sempre. O l'FBI o la scia, sempre loro due. No, in realtà più la scia, ma
a
vabbè.
huge amount of time and effort into figuring out this mystery. They've also dedicated approximately 0 hours into getting bitches. 2 broken arms.
0 ore per ottenere. Esattamente, appena riassunto tutto questo video così.
Refers to a
Ok, 2 braccia
man who
rotte.
stopped his mother. Now, this may bring up some trauma for certain people, so I suggest to skip ahead if you're sensitive to interfamily relations. Anyways,
vuoi dire un bell'incesto, no?
this kid had some sort of accident which left him without the use of his arms temporarily. Being unable to use his arms, the man could no longer, how do I say this without getting whack off. So he went
Come dire, un po'
from
eccitarsi.
whacking his ding dong 2 times a day to 0 times a day. After a while, he got frustrated from the splooge buildup and started lashing out his parents. His mom figured out why he was irritable and decided to, help him with this problem. Bro, this is only the first layer. Like, I already knew about all these so far, but I am not excited to see what goes down deeper. Anyways.
Cioè, proprio. Raga, ve l'ho detto. Ecco a voi cosa fa Reddit. Io mi incazzo dei cacchio di coso, sì, dei cacchio di, che ne so, se un subreddit è leggermente è un po' a sinistra, sti qua invece si fanno le relazioni interfamiliari, mamma no.
What started off as just assistance eventually turned to a full-blown entanglement with his mother. And to make matters even more effed up, the dad knew this was happening the whole time. Ugh, some Freudian bullshit, man. You know, I heard about this story
Complesso di tipo, infatti.
a few years back, and it still makes me cringe in the worst way imaginable. Like, just don't whack off, man. Is it that hard not to whack off?
Scusa, non è... Scusa, non... Oh... ripeto, perversioni sessuali, ok? Ecco a voi. L'internet è... L'internet ama le perversioni sessuali.
Not like you had a permanent disability, alright? It was just temporary. You can't whack off for a few weeks, you sick freak. Ugh, poop scissors. I'm not even gonna touch this one. Go look it up for yourself if you're interested. All I'm gonna say is, it's exactly what it sounds like. Jolly Rancher, no. No, absolutely not. Don't even look this one up, okay? I am serious. Do not look this up. As a matter of fact, this one is so bad that I'm gonna talk about the poop scissors because it's so
Io ho paura. Ragazzi, ho letto il riassunto dell'intelligenza artificiale di Jolly Rancher e... Allora, vi dico che riguarda l'accoppiamento. E ad un certo punto si decide di... La Jolly Rancher è una caramella che serve per l'alito, no? Però ad un certo punto la perde e invece si va a mangiare... L'internet adora mettere cose, cioè il sesso, cioè l'internet ama mettere il sesso in queste situazioni di merda. L'internet mi spaventa dal sesso, ragazzi.
the comparison. Okay, so poop scissors is pretty simple. This dude basically was taking massive gargantuan King Kong level dookies, and he would frequently clog the turlet. So to circumvent the clogging of the turlet, he would cut the doo-doo with a pair of scissors so that the turlet could handle it. What have I become? I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I started this video, but committed.
In realtà, vabbè, non so, vabbè, c'è da dire la differenza di età, come dire, io che ero piccolo piccolo, vabbè, però capitava certe volte che mi prendevo la cacca e me la buttavo in cesso, vabbè, come dire, perché, come dire, tipo non usciva, vabbè. Poi c'è da dire che io certe volte facevo di quelle cacche che, come dire,
No. Anyways, let's continue. The cum box and cum coconut. This one is two stories. The jizz box is referring to a young man who would relieve himself into a shoebox.
io ho già capito, l'ho già sentita da qualche parte,
And he
come
kept
dire.
this shoebox for months until the shoebox gave birth to a disgusting shoebox human hybrid. Okay, that last part didn't happen, but there is a picture of the shoebox in question on the internet. It's pretty gross. The cum coconut
Mamma mia, ma...
is a separate tale of a young man who lived in a tropical area. So, when you live in a tropical area, what do? Exactly, you coconuts. So this kid was
Io lo ripeto, ragazzi, l'internet mi disturba, cioè, come vedete, c'è sempre il fare, usare metodi alternativi e disturbanti per, no.
stooping a coconut for a few weeks until he decided to move on to a younger, hotter coconut. But he wanted to have one last night of passion before he casted the coconut out. Skip forward 5 seconds because this next part is. You might want to skip forward 5 seconds because this next part is, pretty disgusting. Basically, a colony of maggots had formed in the coconut, and when he began to, initiate the entanglement, I think you can guess what happened.
Oh, that's not.
Oh mio! Oh, no! No! Mi tengo, no, mi tengo le parti basse perché seriamente... oh mio Dio! Oh mio Dio! Oh mio Dio!
Useless 319. I'm going to tiptoe around this one as much as possible. Useless 319 is the classic tale of a man shooting his schlong off with a revolver. Yes, you heard me right. Reddit user Useless.
Ma basta parlare, sempre usare il proprio apparato riproduttivo nel peggior modo possibile. Cioè, è una cacchio di competizione qua.
319 shot his manhood 4 times in order to sever it. He then proceeded to have sausage for dinner, if you know what I'm saying. Now, why did he do this? Well, because he believed that if he did this, he would save the world from a nuclear apocalypse brought on by North Korea.
Ma perché? Cioè, già l'atto, come dire, ma poi le motivazioni. Ah. Aspetta. Ragazzi, citando la sigla di un programma che mi sono rivisto tanto l'anno scorso e vedrò di... È da un po' che non me lo riguardo, è perché devo andare in Calabria che ci andrò venerdì. Siamo tutti matti, ragazzi, ma qua siamo proprio a livelli di regressione, cioè veramente...
Now,
Mamma.
all of this was brought on by a bad DMT.
Ricordiamo tra l'altro che sì, quando era il 2022, se non mi ricordo male, ero in Calabria e mi cagavo sotto e beccavo su TikTok sta notizia che tipo dei missili mandati dalla Nord Corea si potevano schiantare in Calabria e tipo l'abbiamo fatto tipo ad inizio tipo luglio, agosto, dopo era estate. Io mi ero cagato sotto. Letteralmente ero proprio terrorizzato, mi ero messo a letto presto, cioè veramente ero ultra mega terrorizzato e poi non era vero. Non credo a tutto ciò che vedete su internet, ragazzi.
Trip, okay? So do not listen to Joe Rogan when he says DMT is like the greatest thing ever.
N-dimethyltryptamine, which is the active ingredient in ayahuasca. Have you done that, Alex? Have
Ok, sì, i medicinali, vabbè, come
you done
dire.
DMT? No. Do you want to? You've done regular DMT too, right? Yes. I had a crazy dream last night that was I had DMT trip in my dream.
Vabbè, boh. Torniamo a noi.
Eric and Annie. Shout out to Debunk File for making a great
Eric
in-depth video
Annie.
on this. I'm going to spend a little more time on this one than on other entries because it's one of the few entries on this list that isn't horrendously inappropriate. So let's get into it. This one involved Reddit users Eric R and another little piece, aka Annie. Eric and Annie met through Reddit on this post made by Eric where he invited people on Reddit to go get some pizza for a meetup. Him and his wife had recently broken up after 15
comunque sì, mi ricordo quando ci siamo visti il video di Voldo su la roba di Red, sì, quella là di Natale, ma mamma mia, può far vedere che certe volte l'internet può essere buono,
years of marriage and he didn't want to get pizza alone, which is understandable. Then Annie responded to this post by saying, "You seem like someone I'd get along with if we were co-workers or friends. I think sometimes it would be nice to talk platonically about mutually interesting topics with someone here and more than just a comment or two." She went on to clarify the platonically part by saying, "You probably saw that I have a significant other. I'm loyal to a fault and would never give him pause. So the correspondence would need to be in public Reddit threads of some sort, meaning no PMs, emails, or the such. I'm on Reddit often, but not in any scheduled ways. So I would see your message, and if I was free to respond, I would do so as time allows." After this, they would create threads on the r/Let's Chat subreddit where they would have one-on-one conversations publicly. They referred to these threads as branches, and as soon as one branch would get archived, they would create another one and carry on their conversation there. If you're unfamiliar with Reddit, after about 6 months or so, threads get archived, which means nobody can comment anymore and they're just read-only. So they would create these threads, talk in them. After about 6 months, they would get archived and then create a new thread or branch. These branches would carry on for years, and Eric and Annie would have tens of thousands of posts between the two of them. And after reading some of these messages, it was clear that these people loved each other, man. Like, reading through their messages feels kind of weird, like you're reading through somebody's personal texts. Now, these chats were going just fine
usare, che ne so, WhatsApp,
while until one day Eric brings up his current significant other. Annie then responds with this long message saying things like, "For me, I just don't think I can go along," or whatever is the right word. And she ends the message by saying, "I realize that it's very likely that you're only offering a friendly and supportive ear to this woman, but life is life and you are you, and you are the most exceptionally incredible man I know you to be. And things happen, and I think I have to wait for SL to be with you through all things. I don't know if I'm strong enough for TL. I can keep talking to you for tonight. This isn't my last message tonight, but I just can't." She would also go on to say in another separate message, "I just am not able to hear of you with other women without hurting myself." Now, when she said, "I think I have to wait for SL to be with you through all things," SL is referring to Second Life, which is something that was frequently brought up between the two of them.
Second Life è quel gioco là, sì, che era di moda degli anni 2000, cioè quello del videoclip di Irene Grandi. Scusate, lo devo fare ad ogni donna che trovo convenzionalmente attraente. Cioè, ci sta, vabbè, capite, no?
Ominous in a way. Anyways, after going back and forth for a while with Eric trying to convince her to continue the chats, she leaves this cryptic message. "I turn away from here. All my everything I can send, first, last, and everything." Man, that was also ominous, but this would be the last post Annie would ever make on Reddit. But this didn't stop Eric from creating new branches and hoping one day Annie would return. For 2 years following that comment from Annie, Eric posted 4 branches, one every few months directed towards her. The last one of these was posted in December of 2017 titled, "The Last Branch Eric Can Make for Annie." In this, he seems to finally accept the situation and says, "My time to write messages in your direction is coming to an end. It's pretty hard to face, but I've needed to face it for more than 2 years. And 5 years. You've been part of my world for 5 years now. Thank you for every moment of it." Fuck, man. I thought this was the disturbing Reddit post iceberg, not the shit that makes me want to cry iceberg. Anyway, he stopped posting after this, so a lot of people speculated that Eric may have ended himself. But then 2 years later in 2019, he randomly commented on this Ask Reddit post, asking about how people come up with their usernames. So I hope Eric is still alive, and I wish him the best. He sounds like a stand-up guy.
Bene, dai.
Dagobah. Oh, dude, this one is really disgusting. So there was an ER.
Allora, palude, ok? Palude. Cos'è? Quella di Shrek, no?
Nurse who had a rather large patient come in one day with severe abdominal pain. This patient injected drogas via her booty hole, and the injection site got infected, and I'll just read the rest directly from the post. The surgeon steps up with the scalpel and sinks just the tip in. Just the tip. And at the exact same moment, the patient had a muscle twitch in her diaphragm, and just like that, all hell broke loose. Unbeknownst to us, the infection had actually tunneled nearly a foot into her abdomen, creating a vast cavern full of pus, rotten tissue, and fecal matter that had seeped outside of her colon. The godforsaken...
Oh mio Dio! Non potevo andare a fare cose migliori, tipo a sta ora invece non potevo fare, non potevo andare a gunare sui rene grandi. Potevo fare queste cose sane, invece no,
Mixture came rocketing out of that little incision like we were recreating the funeral scene from Jane Austen's Mafia.
Vabbè, dannate pubblicità.
She goes on to say, we all wear waterproof gowns, face masks, gloves, hats, the works, all of which were about as helpful as rain boots against a fire hose. As the surgeon continued to advance his blade, the torrent just continued. The patient kept seizing, and with every muscle contraction, one shot more of this blackish gray fluid out into the floor until within minutes it was seeping into the other nurse's shoes. The nurse compared the outcome to being in the swamps of Dagobah, but with no Yoda.
Oh, disgusting that shit is. A shower I require.
Grande Yoda, infatti. Ah sì, sì, effettivamente anche Star Wars, sì, perché non mi era... Aveva pure finito il gioco quest'anno.
Lake City Quiet Pills. This mystery begins with the Reddit post by user 26. The end of Religion of Peace. He died today. I'm the person who provided Religion of Peace a space for that old guy's image host. Milo died today. He was 79 years old. He died at his desk looking at your site. Milo was a mean old fucker. Mean and ornery. He hooked me up with my first gig when I just got out of the army, and I didn't like finding him like that. Milo didn't have any living relatives and no real friends, other than his landlady and a few people where he worked. I don't know what else to say. I'll miss him, miserable bastard. Now, this fella, Religion of Peace, aka Milo, he was kind of a scummy guy, and he was the moderator of the r/jailbait subreddit. He also owned the web...
Per chi non sapesse cosa fosse Jailbait, oltre ad essere uno dei... oltre che era tipo il subreddit più popolare, proprio praticamente era tipo minorenni che si vestivano da adulte, o comunque, vabbè, minorenni che, come dire, sembravano adulte, quindi... vedi, perfetto per i pedofili, ve l'ho già detto che l'internet ama sdoganare perversioni sessuali per cui dovrebbero essere in cella.
Website that old guy's image host, also known as LakeCityQuietPills.com. That website has since been taken down, but it used to be an image hosting site similar to Imgur or PhotoBucket. Now, you guys remember PhotoBucket? Comment below if you're old enough to remember PhotoBucket.
No.
Now, what the heck is Lake City Quiet Pills? Well, if you look at another one of Milo's comments, it might give us some insight. Of course there are assassinations. There are some things that the legal system can't fix. I can think of any number of criminal organizations that would benefit from a dose of Lake City Quiet Pills. So based off of this comment, you can deduce that Lake City Quiet Pills is code for assassination or ending somebody, something like that. Either that or Viagra. I don't know. I failed reading to be honest. Now, remember the guy who posted about Milo's passing, Reddit user 26? Well, a couple of presumably autistic gentlemen found an account on the website fark.com by the name of Angel26. Just a coincidence, right? Except, look at his bio. Dispensing Lake City Quiet Pills to bastards in need of permanent rest since 1968. It's kind of weird, right? Well, to make things even more weird, somebody found out that if you look at the source code of that old guy's image host website, there was a hidden chat room right there in the HTML. Most of the messages in this chat room seem to be for jobs. Jobs that involve making people disappear. These messages...
Un cecchino. un, un cecchino, un sicario su Reddit. Scusate, volevo fare questa gag. Oh! Oh! Ragazzi, anch'io dovevo far parte della mattanza in questa. Per chi si fosse interessato, io stavo, come dire, colpendo la coscia, non effettivamente il... Cioè, faceva un rumore... Ragazzi, anch'io mi devo umiliare, ok?
Were coded, but people were able to decipher most of them. One message in particular said this: "We're having a birthday party for the old man on the 19th. Party starts at 3 p.m. the usual." They also mentioned that the phones in the hotel were not secure. You know what else happened on the 19th at exactly 3 p.m.? The assassination of Hamas officer Mahmoud al-Mabouh in a hotel room.
È uno che ha ucciso uno di Hamas. Ah! Ah! No, basta, per favore. Che letteralmente prima di fare sto video mi stavo riascoltando tipo 30 volte la canzone We Are the Soldiers of the IDF che scherza in modo molto brutale sul genocidio a Gaza. Ma c'è una rappresentazione molto brutale sugli scudi umani civili. Vabbè, andiamo avanti.
Holy smokes, man, this story has more twists and turns than the fucking Rainbow Road. Oh, and by the way, the term Lake City Quiet Pills is actually slang for bullets. See, Lake City Army Ammunition Plant is one of the largest producers of ammo in the United States, so that's where the name comes from. Shampoo bottle. This one isn't that crazy.
Bottiglia di
I
shampoo.
stuffed the shampoo bottle, that's about it.
Ok, si è infilato una bottiglia di shampoo nel... vabbè, strano... però sì, cioè, vabbè. Ok.
Per tornare al centro...
Ste cazzo di pubblicità, maledetti. Devo già soffrire.
Vagina bacon. No. Just... no. Brand...
Bene, Popo, questa... Allora, vabbè, bacon... Forse ho già capito cosa parlerà, non lo vado nemmeno a cercare,
Whirly
lo so.
slash Jason in Hell. This one is heartbreaking, so I'll keep it short.
Oh no.
A user by the name of Jason in Hell posted in the relationship advice sub asking for advice on what to do about his cheating wife. Basically, his wife has cheated on him with his neighbor. He confronted her in front of the neighbor and the neighbor's girlfriend, saying he was going to leave her. She responded that if he does that, she'll make sure he never sees his kids again. A lot of people gave him the advice to get a lawyer immediately and divorce her no-good trifling ass. And he took that advice, because it was good advice. Unfortunately, this would lead to his wife taking the lives of her 2 children and attempting to take her own life.
Io sono senza parole. No, raga, questo non si merita nemmeno una battuta su... No, no, basta battute sulle pugnette, basta. No, questo è troppo, questo è troppo. No, no, no. Ragazzi, siamo solo al terzo lei e l'abbiamo appena iniziato, ne mancano... Io, raga, non sopravviverò qui.
Scott Clischulte. Back in
Non sopravviverò a
2016,
questo
somebody
video.
asked on Ask Reddit, those who have accidentally killed somebody, what went wrong? Now, there were a lot of crazy responses, but we're going to be talking about one
Allora, io ho ucciso molte formiche.
in particular. Now, I could not find this original comment anywhere as it was immediately deleted, but luckily somebody reposted it on another Reddit post. This still haunts me to this day. As kids, we had a hideout in this dirt cliff/cove. This is the best approximation I could find on Google. Only 3 times taller and probably 10 times as wide. There was a neighborhood kid who, in hindsight, was probably mentally handicapped in some way, but to us he was just a weird/creepy kid. This was the 80s and we weren't exactly raised PC. 3 of us were headed out to our base and we found the creepy kid sitting on top of our guard chair. We yelled at him to get out and he said something like, "Make me," and started lobbing dirt clods and sticks down at us. We all ran around the side to make our way up. It gets pretty fuzzy here, but all I remember is he fell. I still remember the sound. We got back down to check on him and he was very awkward position with blood coming out of his mouth. We all just freaked out and ran home. As far as I know, no one has spoken a word of this to anyone. We didn't go back for over a month, and we never said a word of it between us. Again, this was the 80s, so no media wasn't like... Again, this was the 80s, so media wasn't like today. Chances are it got a small article in the newspaper B section. Mentally handicapped disabled child found after fall, something like that. Now, people looked through this
Oh
guy's
cacchio.
post history at the time and saw that he was from Missouri. They also found this missing persons report for a boy named Scott Clischulte. Some of the information definitely matches up, including the date, location, and age of the child. Also, the description OP gave of that cliff/cove area matches up with an area very near to where Scott was last seen.
Right 5 minutes from our house was nothing. Farmlands and fields and dirt trails and stuff like that.
Now, is this definitive proof? No, absolutely not. It seems pretty likely to me, and it's crazy how mother suckers on Reddit are more effective than actual detectives. The power of too much free time, man. The man who ate his own
Esattamente.
foot. I think for this one,
Un po' autoesplicativo, come dire.
just read the post since it's not that long.
Però
Hi, y'all.
perfetto. Allora, abbiamo avuto incesto, vabbè, pedofilia magari perché c'è magari la storia della madre, non so se era minorenne, vabbè. Assassino, mo abbiamo pure cannibalismo, perfetto.
I'm a man who ate a portion of his own amputated leg. Ask me anything. So, the quick and dirty. About 2 years ago, I was hit on my motorcycle, then salvaged my foot. But I would never be able to walk on it, so I elected to have it amputated instead. I asked the doctors to keep it, I signed some papers, I got it back. And with the help of some friends, I cooked a portion of the tibialis anterior. Proof. Foot tacos. More proof. Me and my stump. Dang, this gives a whole new meaning to the phrase, foot in your mouth.
Come dire.
Whole new meaning to the phrase, foot in your mouth. What am I doing? Homicidal meme.
Anch'io mi sto chiedendo cosa stia facendo.
A user known as Narato posted this meme on the Advice Animal subreddit with the title, "Finally, I have the guts to say it," confessing to a Breaking Bad style murder of his sister's boyfriend. Now, it was very likely that this was just a joke, but that didn't stop people from getting all the guy's information and sending it to the FBI. Later
Oh,
on, Narato
shit.
would clarify that the meme was a joke, but he also said there's some truth behind it. But I'm not saying what was true and what wasn't. Well, this just goes to show that confessing to a murder through a meme on Reddit is not a good idea. I'm always trying to tell people this. My mom poisoned me, so this kid is telling a story about how he was from a very protective family. None of his family members wanted him to even get a job once he became an adult. But eventually, he found a good job in another city and decided to move. His family, particularly his mother, did not take it well, but he said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna move, and if you don't like it, you can suck both my ass cheeks simultaneously." Okay, maybe he didn't use those words specifically, but that's the words I would use. Anyways, his mother gave him some food, including 2 cups of ramen noodles. The weird thing is, the paper lid on the ramen noodle cup was torn off, but he didn't think anything of it. Once he arrived in his new city, he ate one of the ramens and immediately began to feel weird. He said he felt lightheaded and weak. He also said that he remembered feeling the exact same way a few years back after eating something his sister gave him. He was suspicious that he got poisoned, so he took a cyanide test kit which came back positive. He tried going to the police with this information, but unfortunately, there's nothing he could do about it. Man, talk about a weird family reunion, huh? Red is blue one...
Mamma mia, ma cioè... Ma ha provato proprio a fargli una... Ma è tipo Hitman, no? Non c'è il livello di Hitman che assassina quello che gli metti il...
On April 28th, 24-year-old Melinda Vasilia's life was cut short by her boyfriend Agar Mohsen Hassan. After the slaying, Hassan would go on the run, and during his evasion of the police, he made a long post on Reddit about the situation. In this post, he claimed that him and Melinda got into an argument, and she began to hit him. At one point, she pulled out a knife and attacked him with it. He grabbed another knife, and in a state of pure shock, he struck her a few times. He claimed he had no intention of this happening, and that he was just protecting himself. It's pretty much all there is with this one. Pretty sad. The Whistler.
Vabbè, un semplice caso di omicidio, quindi...
This one is creepy as shit, and I hate creepy stuff, man. That's why I never look in the mirror. Anyways, somebody asked on Reddit, what is the creepiest thing that has actually happened to you? The top comment is by user BingBong1234.
Bing bong!
When Bing Bong was 8 years
Bing
old,
Bong.
he was walking his dog with his mom around 11 p.m. at night. Okay, bro. Let me stop you right there. Have you never seen a horror movie? Walking your dog late at night is a surefire way for some creepy shit to happen, okay?
Ok, proprio iniziamo, proprio, come dire, la solita introduzione, no?
He was walking his dog when all of a sudden he hears a strange whistling sound, which he said sounded human-like, but also bird-like in a way. He said his mom had a terrified look on her face and quickly grabbed his hand, and they both ran back to the house. 2 years later, he was walking his dog late at night again. Don't you learn your lesson? How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, young man? Anyways, on his walk, he heard the same whistling sound. And at this point, you could probably guess there was nothing left in his colon, and he ran back
sarà
to
Pennywise.
his house again. Okay, if you couldn't tell, I'm going to be making a lot of jokes in this one because I'm creeped out. Anyways, years went by, and he hadn't heard the whistle again until 14 years later. Bing Bong moved to South Dakota with his girlfriend, and on the 4th of July, he went to a river with his lady, and he saw a strange figure out in the distance rowing on the water. The person on the boat then started whistling at him. Then, the person on the boat started whistling at him. It was the exact same whistle he had heard in his childhood over 10 years ago. The guy kept getting closer and closer to him and started whistling directly at him. OP was so startled that he stood up and shouted, "Who are you?" But the figure didn't say anything. Just whistled a few more times, turned the canoe around, and paddled out of sight. And if you think this one might just be a load of malarkey, he posted a video of the guy. Okay, let's move on. Unlikely heroin addict.
Ok, ma proprio questa è proprio una roba proprio da film horror, cioè vero che Mon ha detto che Hollywood vorrebbe delle storie di Reddit, sì, dopo il successo del tipo il film delle Backroom, no, mamma mia, cioè.
This is a tale about a young man who spontaneously bought some H while walking through the seedy part of downtown.
Okay, l'eroina.
He made an AMA titled, "I did heroin yesterday, but I'm not a drug user and I've never done anything besides pot back when I was a teen." AMA. Now, this kid had a pretty good life. He had a master's degree, good paying job, and he felt like being a little crazy for once in his life. But I think he skipped like 8 steps and went straight to snorting H. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I want to do something crazy, I like sleep without the TV on, because there's nothing crazier than being alone with my own thoughts. Anyways, he said it was basically the best thing ever, and he ended the post by saying, "Please, no more comments telling me I'm going to be a homeless addict dying of an overdose now. Don't lecture me with all of your misconceptions and lack of any real knowledge or experience about the drug." And, you know, this quote is interesting because he would become addicted 2 weeks later. Seriously. After 2 weeks, this guy was already injecting the stuff and spending most of his money on H. Now, a lot of people were accusing him of trolling because, I mean, it sounds ridiculous to be fair, but the man had receipts. I'm not going to post the photo here, but he had receipts. Anyways, not a year after his initial foray into H, this man had already OD'd and was admitted to a mental hospital. He also claimed to have passed away briefly and was brought back in the hospital. See, man, this is why you should never do drugs. I mean, look at me. I don't do drugs. Well, besides that time I got addicted to nitrous oxide. But hey, I kicked that nitrous oxide addiction, and since then I don't do any drugs. I barely even drink, and look at me. Sexy as shit. Anyway,
per fortuna anch'io non mi drogo.
The guy later revealed in another Reddit post that he was 6 years clean and got his life back on track. He stated in his update post, "I know I can look back objectively and say that things probably weren't as good and normal before I tried heroin that one time, as I made it seem in that first post. I would have never tried it if things were..."
Allora, forse la cosa più vicina comunque alle droghe che ho avuto, quei video tipo l'effetto dell'LSD, tipo che guardavi l'illusione e poi avevi la visione che sballata, quella è la cosa più vicina alle droghe, però non le ho mai avuto.
Truly going well for me. A good point, man. If you're ever feeling like your life is shit, turning to drugs is probably the worst thing you can do. You just gotta raw dog that shit and go to therapy, man. That's the only solution. But anyways, PSA over. Shout out to Spontaneous H for getting his life back under control. You're an absolute Chad for that. Mysterious stores. The Reddit user Iceman Throwaway 123 made a post about 12 mysterious and identical stores open on my street. What could be happening?
Oh.
In the post, he had said a bunch of stores in his areas closed down, and not too long after, 12 new stores all sprung up in their place. He said the stores are all similar to each other and have generic names like Town Mart. They also only accept cash. Most of their products are expired food products. Now, I believe I have some familiarity with what's going on here. You see, I used to work at a cash business with my Uncle Tony back in high school, and if this is what I think it is, the guy who posted this potentially got whacked. Allegedly. I was in a cult. In 2017, using a throwaway...
Ero in una setta, ok. Ah, tra l'altro ci colleghiamo ad altre reaction, no? Perché ci siamo visti Sì, il video sulle 7, vabbè.
A user gave his account of how he accidentally joined the cult. He said that he was in college and he was suffering from severe depression. To help with this, he joined a group therapy session, and during one of these sessions, he had a guest that spoke to the group. The man, who he called Bob, pitched him a 5-week-long group therapy holiday with fun activities as well as counseling sessions. He also said it was completely covered by the school, so it would be free. So the OP gave Bob his contact information, and he went home trying to convince his parents to let him go on the trip. At first they were hesitant, but then Bob showed up at his house unexpectedly.
Voglio...
Okay, man, that's a red flag right there, right off the bat, but let's continue. Bob convinced OP's parents to let him go, and they agreed. And the parents signed some documents. A few days later, he was on his way. At first, when he arrived, everything seemed normal. The campsite was huge, there was a lot of kids around his same age, and counselors were friendly. Everything was going good at first, but then things started to get weird. First of all their belongings, including their phones and their clothes, were taken. They weren't allowed to have any contact with their parents or anyone in the outside world, and they all had to wear matching tracksuits everywhere. Again, that's another red flag right there. The only people who wear matching tracksuits are cults and Eastern European hoodlums.
Lo sapete che Michelle Hunziker ha fatto parte di una setta anche lei, cioè.
To sleep in these tracksuits in the middle of summer, and if that wasn't bad enough, they had to swim in these tracksuits too. During meals, Bob would say prayers to the gods, and OP initially brushed this off as Bob being inclusive towards everybody's religions, but then he started saying weird stuff like, the gods will show us the way to the end. Eventually, OP snuck out of the group therapy session into the main building. He used one of the phones to call his house and tell his parents to pick him up. Then that night, he ran out of the camp to his parents, who were waiting just outside. Some of the group leaders chased him to his parents' car and told his parents that he couldn't leave because they signed a contract. But OP's dad told him to go suck themselves, and then he peeled out. The next day, the group's leaders showed up to OP's house and tried to take him back to the camp. And they said that they would not leave without him. They would continue to stalk him all summer, and one day they physically tried to kidnap him. But somebody called the police, and all of the group leaders were arrested. One of the leaders, who OP called Todd, whacked himself while out on bail. After that fiasco, OP and his family were forced to leave town and change their names to escape this cult. And then he stated in another comment, "I'm scared of even Googling the group name, as I know that if they tracked me down, it would not end well. I hope you all understand the position I'm in and know that for my family and my own protection, I can't give any more information than that." And as if all of that wasn't crazy enough, 5 days later after the initial post, he commented this: "This is not true. I was part of a therapy group that specializes in helping teenagers with mental health problems. I was not in a cult. Since then, I've decided to rejoin the group. I will answer no further questions on this matter." It's pretty ominous, man. I think there's 3 possibilities.
Sono confuso.
One of the cult members hacked him and posted that. 2, he was forced to write that under duress. Or 3, it's fake. Nexpo did a pretty good video on this if you want to know more. Late night recordings. Dude, this one is so creepy, I don't even want to talk about it, but I gotta give the people what they want. That being said, I'm gonna keep it short.
Allora.
So, this woman had an app on her phone that records your nighttime noises so it can detect sleep apnea and stuff like that.
Ok, iniziamo bene. È proprio il pretesto perfetto per una persona del genere.
In this particular recording, you can hear some clicks that get louder and louder over the course of the recording. And eventually you can hear her say, "What are you doing?" Followed by a deep voice that says, "Nothing." The clicks keep getting louder, and later in the recording you can hear the other voice say, "That's them." Now, she said the only people in her house that day were her and her 3-year-old child. If you're doubting this story, she posted the original voice recording, and, feel free to listen.
Oh no, okay.
That shit. I'm not gonna do it, because I feel like getting some sleep tonight, but you go ahead. So after recording this video portion, I decided that I was gonna get some balls and actually listen to it and play it for you guys, so here it is.
What are you doing?
Dang, man, is it just me, or does that sound kind of sound like cheeks being clapped? Datura. Datura is a poisonous flower which has psychoactive effects when ingested. Ingestion of this
Perfetto, ora parliamo di droghe.
can cause dry mouth,
Circa,
muscle
vabbè.
stiffness,
Urinary retention, confusion, amnesia, bizarre thoughts, violent behavior.
Tante cose brutte. Io una volta ho mangiato tipo delle foglie, perché credevo che se le giraffe sapessero mangiarle, anch'io le potevo. Eh,
Loss of ability to differentiate between fantasy and reality. So I think it's safe to say that this is not a party drug. In fact, the overwhelming majority of those who use the Torah describe their experience as extremely mentally and physically unpleasant and potentially dangerous. Despite this, some dumb schmucks still insist on doing it. One dumb schmuck in particular decided to post about it on Reddit. Finally, got my hands on some Datura. How much should I take? Now, despite basically everybody in the thread trying to convince him not to take it, he was dead set on tripping balls. Yeah, I know, man. I've been reading about the effects for a couple of days now. It isn't trippy like hallucinogens, but will make you delirious. Reading some of the stories about people talking to imaginary people and reading books that don't exist makes me want to do it still. You're a schmuck, kid, you hear me? A schmuck! So, he goes through with it and takes quite a lot. And the next day he comments this: Google.com, how normal again, stop now. He also commented on a random post in r/gaming subreddit saying, please, these big dog are fighting, not okay. Yeah, don't do drugs. This was the last comment this account would ever post. But anyways, I hope he's okay. Like, we all do dumb things when we're young, so hopefully he's good and he learned his lesson. Carl H., also known as Carl Harold, was a Reddit...
oh mio, oddio. Oddio, questo lo so. Oh mio Dio, ho sentito un paio di volte la sua storia. Ragazzi, non siete pronti,
user who
ok?
was very active in the r/learn programming subreddit, where he would help beginners learn how to code. He also had his own subreddit, r/Carl H Programming, along with a website, computerscienceforeveryone.com. And he had a YouTube channel dedicated to programming tutorials. He was even
Sì.
once awarded Redditor of the Day due to his efforts in helping others. Now,
Bene.
despite his
E
online persona as a nice guy
però,
who educated aspiring programmers, Carl
però,
was an absolute monster. Like, no joke, this guy was a horrible, disgusting human being. He was imprisoned in 2013 for things that would make even Jeff Epstein blush. I don't even want
le
to
stesse cose che faceva lui, vi dico.
talk about this scumbag anymore because it's raising my blood pressure. Let's move on. Intruder.
Sì, comunque, vabbè, sì, comunque ho già detto, aveva fatto le stesse cose che faceva Jeffrey Epstein, quindi avete capito, e le ha fatte tutte su suo figlio.
Is referring to
Andiamo
this
avanti.
post. Got a notification from my smart home app in the middle of the night saying your doorbell detected a visitor with this image. What, you thought I was gonna do a creepy video with no jump scare? Get the fuck out of here. You/Daryl
Cacchio.
Pratt. Back in 2016, a Reddit user
Ok,
named
Daryl
Daryl
Pratt.
Pratt began making a bunch of weird posts such as, I'm an 18-year-old male and need help getting a 26-year-old girl on the internet to like me. Please help me, I'm desperate. And can I get in trouble for sending a girl love letters? Oh, and of course this gem. If somebody bans me on Facebook and I make another account and pretend to be someone else, can I get in trouble? These posts were directed at YouTuber Alana Pierce, and she gave an account of her experiences with this fella in a video on her channel.
È tutto quando li lasci per una settimana, ma se dovessi farlo per...
So he was just a guy who would comment on my social feeds regularly, and I didn't really think anything of it. He was telling a line where I was like, this is getting a little uncomfortable, and I slowly started to block him off my social media, kind of one by one, based on stuff he was saying. But the thing that officially crossed the line and made me block him off of Facebook, which is the place where he was most active in talking to me, I think outside of YouTube, was that I got my eyebrows tattooed and I shared that on Snapchat. But he ended up going on IGN videos, which is the company that I work for, and if people would say something nice about me, he would reply to them and be like, she got her eyebrows tattooed. Basically, he was incredibly angry that someone he had put on an unrealistic pedestal had done something to themselves that he didn't like.
Now, after she made that video and kept blocking him, Daryl made a bunch of ominous posts saying he was going to whack himself, but thankfully it seems like that didn't
Cacchio.
happen. According to Nexpo himself, he seems to
Sempre
have
persone che si vogliono comunque ammazzare, ma che è?
moved on, spending time with family, and can be confirmed to be alive. Man, shout out to Daryl. Simping is one of the hardest addictions to kick, almost as hard as nitrous oxide. Trust me, I would know. Decomposing fetus. I'm gonna spare you guys the details.
Mi basta solo il nome,
But
guarda.
basically, this was a I didn't know I was pregnant situation, and an extremely obese woman didn't know she was pregnant, and well, decomposing fetus. Quantum immortality. Now, this is an insanely complex topic, which I'm probably way too dumb to explain, but I'll take a crack at it. Now, the theory of quantum immortality involves two other concepts. One is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, which basically says that there's an infinite number of worlds or dimensions or universes, whatever you want to call them.
Va bene, parliamo di superstizione.
And every possible outcome of an event is happening in one of these worlds. So, it's kind of like the multiverse in the MCU. The second concept you need to be familiar with is Schrodinger's cat. So, according to this thought experiment, if you place a cat inside of a box with something that could kill it, curiosity, for example, you wouldn't know if the cat was alive or dead until you open the box. Let me give you an example. My dad went out to get milk when I was 3 years old. Until I see my dad again, I won't know if he actually got the milk or not. So he both has the milk and doesn't have the milk. But according to Schrodinger's box, I haven't seen that bastard in 17 years. Where are you, Dad? Do you have the milk? Anyways, quantum immortality is kind of like Schrodinger's cat, but from the point of view of the cat. Let's say Schrodinger is a psychopathic cat killer and he's outside a box with a button. Every time he hits the button, the cat has a 50-50 chance of living or not. If the cat dies, it's unaware that it died. Its consciousness just ends. If it lives, its consciousness lives on. According to quantum immortality, every time Schrodinger hits that button, it creates two worlds, two timelines. There will always be a timeline where the cat is alive, a timeline where the cat's consciousness lives on. Therefore, it's impossible for the cat to ever actually die in the grand scheme of things. That probably made no fucking sense, but here's where it gets dark. In our timeline, at least. A Reddit user by the name of AFH43 found out about this theory on Reddit, and it really messed with his head. In a span of 4 days, he made 14 posts regarding quantum immortality, and these posts are pretty disturbing. Things like, the theory of quantum immortality has driven me to a state of pure anxiety and terror over the last week. Is it true? Has it been debunked? I can't do this anymore. The theory of quantum immortality has driven me to a really dark place. I'm living in a state of pure terror. Is there any reason to believe that it is true? Existential crisis.
Crisi esistenziale, varie cose,
It
ragazzi.
won't stop. I need help. I can't do this anymore. His last post was, quantum immortality. I'm myself soon. It's just too much. I can't do it anymore.
Oh,
God. Man, this is horrible because, I've had a few existential crises in my day, and it is not fun, so I hope you got the help you need.
No.
U/Cypro is a Redditor who performed the surgery on herself for the stupidest fucking reason ever. So she posted on the r/cornbeef approved subreddit, and this sub is a whole nother can of worms. If you're curious and want to check it out, please don't. Anyways, this Cypro fella, or lady, I should say, made a post with the title, "Cut out the fat in cheek, then ate it." She was saying that she recently bought a motorcycle, but the helmet wouldn't fit on account of her big, fat, juicy David Dobrik cheeks. So,
sempre tipo motociclette, che è che ste motociclette, no? Deve sempre portare che devo mangiare il corpo.
Instead of buying another helmet like a normal human being, this psycho decides to do plastic surgery on herself and cut out part of her cheek. I'll spare you the gory details, but she accomplished her goal of removing the fat in her cheek and then proceeded to put it on a sandwich. She later left this comment, "People concerned over my mental health. Please, I don't need your 2 cents. My mental health is fine. I'm not depressed. I don't have a body image issue. I just enjoy pain and pushing myself to my limits. And hey, it was fun. That's basically the only reason I do anything." See, this is the shit that happens when you have no hobbies. Houston Horror Hotel. A person posted on the Houston subreddit asking about a specific room at the Hotel Zaza near downtown Houston. One of his colleagues was somehow given this weird room that was about half the size of a regular room and had a very strange decor. Pictures of skulls everywhere, weird creepy paintings, no carpet, and what looks to be like a two-way mirror chained to a brick wall. Man, I don't care how big the discount was. This is not my idea of a relaxing stay. The weirdest thing about this room is that there's a portrait of former Stanford Financial Group president Jay Como. Now, the Stanford Financial Group was actually shut down for running one of the biggest Ponzi schemes ever, and Jay himself was under investigation, but I think he got off scot-free, so he's definitely a sketchy mother sucker, and to give him even more connections to this hotel, he actually threw a big party at the Zaza Hotel while it was still under construction. Other people in the comments suggested that this room could be relevant to the Skull and Bones, which is a secret society from Yale that George Bush, John Kerry, and Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh attended, which makes sense because the Skull and Bones nickname is order 322, and the room number was 322. And that would also explain the pictures of the skulls everywhere. And if you weren't absolutely convinced that something weird was happening in this room, OP later updated the post saying, a new Redditor offered him a bounty to delete this thread. Redditor gets revenge on his son. Think you kids are a handful? Listen to this shit. This is from the Confession subreddit. I stood by and allowed my wife to almost whack our son. I was happy she did it. Right off the bat, I'm intrigued. So basically, this man's son was a massive psychopath from day one. And I'm not talking about he puts milk before cereal psychopath. I'm talking about Ted Bundy. Since the minute he was born, this kid was an absolute pain in the tuchus. As an infant, he would cry 24/7, and once he got past the crying, he started breaking everything he could get his hands on. He would then take off his diaper and poo-poo and pee-pee all over the house, and his favorite spot to do this was on his parents' bed. As he got older, he got worse and worse. He would bite, scream, kick, scratch, and spit at anyone who got close to him. Kid was a wild fucking animal. It got so bad that schools refused to take him in, and his parents had to lock themselves in their own room out of fear of him. After a while,
una minaccia, cioè Dennis la minaccia, mamma mia.
Child, a daughter, and she was the exact opposite of that little putz. By the time she was born, the son was 16, and he was just as much of a psycho as ever. He would frequently light things on fire and even torture animals of the neighborhood, which, if you're familiar, are the two earliest signs of a serial killer. Anyways, his wife tried to take the kid to therapy and did everything in their power to make the kid behave. But nothing worked. He was evil. He was more evil than those bastards who emulate Nintendo games. Now, the kid and his parents would get into constant arguments, and he would go into a rage. After one of these arguments, his son snuck into his sister's room and cut her with a knife multiple times. When the parents heard her cries, they kicked the door down and saw this little bastard standing above her holding the knife. Now, OP's wife was no spring chicken. People still say that. We gotta bring that phrase back. Anyways, his wife was an amateur boxer and she kicked the shit out of that schmuck while OP watched. She beat him so bad that he thought that he was now past tense, if you know what I'm saying. But no, he survived, and after a while the family moved and they never saw him again. Roommate wanted. One day a girl named Amanda was
Maronna, cioè, ma che è sta follia
Craigslist trying to find an apartment. She says in an ad, roommate wanted, females only, and it was pretty cheap compared to other places in the area. The only thing is, it had only one photo from the outside of the listing property, no photos of the inside. So Amanda decides to email the owner so she could meet her and get a tour of the place. The owner says she works late, so it would have to be around 8 p.m. Amanda agrees, and the next day she arrives only to see a note on the front door that reads, front door broken. Use back. So she goes around the back, and an older man opens the door saying he's the landlord, and that the female occupant told him to meet her since she got held up at work. As soon as she walked through the door, there was a bunch of red flags. First of all, there was no furniture. Second of all, the door was boarded up, which means it wasn't broken at all. And the supposed landlord was acting weird and rushing her through the tour and telling her not to turn the lights on for too long. So at this point, Amanda had her, oh shit, I'm about to get made into a lamp moment, and decided she needed to get the F out of Buffalo Bill's House of Horrors. So she politely thanks the man for the tour and says she has to leave. But Buffalo Bill perks up and says, oh, I forgot to show you the basement. Now, if you guys have ever seen a movie, you know that nothing good ever happens in a basement. Then
Io dicevo sempre o bambini in cantina, così, a caso.
Car pulls up in front of the house. At this point, Amanda is in full panic mode.
Oh shit, combo camion cantina. Oh mio Dio.
On her feet, she pretends to get a phone call and says, hey, are you here? Oh, I'll come out and meet you. Then once she gets outside, she sprints to her car and gets the fuck out of there faster than me when I find out I'm not the father.
You are not.
So it turns out that the house was abandoned and the landlord was just a homeless man squatting there. In the basement, he had a piece of fishing wire about shin length on the stairs and a bunch of old blankets and tape. So yeah, this was definitely puts the lotion on the skin situation. So shout out to Amanda for making the right move there. Also, being a woman sounds terrifying. Someone at the window. While at his cousin's cabin, this man posted a panoramic photo. Now, if you look closely, you'll see that there's a fucking person standing outside. Genuinely terrifying. Glove man. No, this is not the worst superhero ever.
Uomo dei
Gloves
guanti,
are
ok.
fucked posted an account of his experience he had in Halifax with the man he calls the Glove Man. Opie says he was looking for a cab after a night out when suddenly a well-dressed guy pulls up in an SUV and asks if he's looking for a cab. He says yes and hops in the guy's car, because as we all know, getting in a stranger's vehicle is always a good idea. He said the driver was wearing a leather jacket and leather gloves. The man then tells OP that he sells leather gloves and asks OP to try on a pair. Then at one point, the glove man starts breathing heavily as he's watching OP put these gloves on. And at this point, it was extremely obvious that the dude had some kind of fetish for young men trying on leather gloves. He said he even had to look at the glove guy's hands to make sure he wasn't whacking off. After a few more minutes of glove stretching, the driver finally took OP near his house, and that was that. Now, apparently this glove guy is well known in Halifax and has done this to a number of different men. In fact, there were 2 other posts about him in the Halifax subreddit. Friendly lady. OP goes downtown with her boyfriend's mother for a night on the town. She parks her car, and as soon as she gets out, this weird girl with long black hair and a long dress gets close to her and invades her personal space. OP thought this was weird, but she decided she would just walk away and the girl would probably leave her alone. But this was not the case. As she was walking, the girl followed her and her boyfriend's mom. At one point, the boyfriend's mom asked the girl, "Do you need something? Are you okay or what?" The girl replies back, "It's not safe," while looking OP right in the eyes, creepy style. Now, this chick follows them everywhere. She even followed them into the bar and sat by them. OP even took a photo of her in the bar. The fuck did you take this photo on, a rotary phone? This was made in 2012, not 1914. Why is the quality so bad? Anyways, eventually they called security to get the girl away from them, and she was arguing with the security guard and didn't want to leave, but eventually she was escorted out. Also, OP sounds kind of like a douchebag. Like, this girl was clearly having an episode, or she was being trafficked or something, and she didn't even, like, try to help her at all. She was just trying to get away from her. Drug dealer's mistake. In this disturbing confession on Reddit, a user admits to accidentally causing several people to lose their lives. See, this man was a peddler of illicit substances on the dark web. He said he sold a variety of narcotics, including smack, H, peyote, and fentanyl. One day, OP screwed up the shipments and accidentally sent fentanyl to peyote users. Now, this is bad because these people weren't used to it, so if they were to take a large quantity of it, thinking it was peyote, it would lead them to OD. And this is exactly what happened to multiple people. Bro, if I haven't convinced you by now to not do drugs, I don't even know anymore. Slugs in food.
L'ho capito da un bel po' di tempo questo.
197 posted on the relationship subreddit. My partner has been putting slugs in my food for the past 2 weeks. I, a 22-year-old female, have been with my partner for 4 years now. A friend of my partner's came into my work today and said he needed to speak to me when I was free. He told me that my partner had been collecting slugs from the garden and putting them in my food, blending them up. He even sent his friend pictures of a bag of slugs he had been collecting and a picture of blended slugs. I feel really sick to my stomach. I don't understand why he would do this. This is so out of character for him. I asked him why he was doing it, and he accused me of snooping through his messages. And he got so angry at me for not being able to take a joke. She then posted an image of some slugs she found in a jar. God damn, man, I like escargot and everything, but this is ridiculous. Jake3572, aka Jake Davidson, was a rather disturbed Redditor who gunned down 5 people in England before taking himself out. Davidson was a member of multiple incel subs like r/incel nation.
Bene, siamo arrivati agli incel, ragazzi.
r/virgin and r/men's rights. If you look through his post history, it's basically exactly what you would expect.
Anche gli sparatori di massa.
After he committed these crimes, Reddit deleted his account and his entire post history, possibly to get some of the heat off of them. Girlfriend loves her dad, so this young man is seeing a woman, and everything's going well. They like to roleplay in the bedroom every now and then, and I don't mean Skyrim VR. The dude's girlfriend likes to call him daddy, which he enjoys, and I think that's weird as shit, but hey, to each his own. He also says that they usually have relations each night, except for when her dad comes to visit, because she feels uncomfortable having coitus with him nearby, which is perfectly reasonable. Now, where it starts to get weird is that the girl would just leave OP alone in bed for a long period of time so she could go talk to her dad. This happened nightly while he was staying there, and one of the nights he passed by the room and swore he could hear the bed rocking back and forth and her moaning and groaning. Now, this is pretty freaking disgusting. But some people pointed out in the comments that this guy might not even be her dad at all, but he's just a sugar daddy posing as her dad. And I really hope that's the case. Damn hippies. This post was made on the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit, and this guy just saw the film Call of the Wild and decided he wanted to go on his own adventure. So he planned on hiking from the border of Mexico all the way up to Portland where he lives. He made it from Mexico to Northern California with no issues. But then one day, as he's hiking, he sees a couple who looks like they're in their 40s, wearing all white. And they look pretty disheveled. The guy had a long, ungroomed beard. Now, right away I'm thinking these people are probably in a cult, so there's no way this is going to end well. But let's continue.
Bene.
OP waves and says hello to these people, but they don't say anything. They just stare at him creepily. He thinks nothing of it. Later that night, he makes camp and ties his food up in a tree to keep it away from bears. The next morning, he sees the food is gone and assumes a bear must have gotten to it. But then he also notices a bunch of boot prints around his campsite. He brushes this off as the people just being hungry and continued on with his journey. But he did start putting sticks around his camps to alert him if anybody got too close. A few more days passed and he had almost forgotten all about those weird hippie cultists. But then one night, he was awoken by the sound of twigs snapping and voices whispering. He grabbed his hunting knife and was ready to stab a motherfucker, but eventually the voices stopped, and whoever was near the tent left. Now this is probably the point where any reasonable person would say, fuck it, this hike is over, I just avoided getting sacrificed to who knows what. Not this guy though, he kept going. After a few more days, OP was now about 70 miles away from where the last incident happened. But he looked behind him at one point and saw the two people a few miles back walking in his direction. Now he finally came to his senses and decided he was going to walk to the nearest town. So he starts walking well into the night, but he has to stop eventually and makes camp in the middle of the woods, far away from the trail so those psychos don't find him again. But lo and behold, a couple hours later he hears the signs of a bad night, crunching of sticks, voices whispering, and footsteps. At one point somebody flashes a flashlight right at him, and at this point OP thought he was finished. But he wrote this post. So clearly that didn't happen. At this point, he jumped out of his tent with the knife in his hand, swinging it around like a Puerto Rican girl who just got cheated on. And then he looks around and he saw one of the schmucks, and he started running like a dude dating a Puerto Rican girl who he just cheated on. Eventually, he made his way to town and alerted the police, and they said there have been some similar reports of items disappearing from campsites in the area. But nothing like this. Losing time. I really hope this one's fake. I'll read it from a first-person perspective for some variation. There's a man I run into sometimes, and then I tend to lose time. Today he came to my door. I live in this apartment complex 4 years ago. On the east side of a complex is a bike trail. One night around 10 p.m. I was out walking my dog. Again, we learned this from the other Reddit posts. Bad idea. Never walk your dog at night. I see this guy just standing there. White guy, maybe 35 years old. He wasn't doing anything. He was just standing in one spot with his hands in his pockets staring at me. As I passed him, I laughed a little and tried to make awkward small talk, but the guy said nothing. He just kept staring. After walking for a bit, I started to get nervous and decided I would take a shortcut off the trail. But here's the thing. The second I stepped off the trail, I can't remember anything past that. It's like I blinked, and suddenly I was in the hall inside my building, turning a key in the lock of my apartment. Fast forward 3.5 years, I was now 19 and 7 months pregnant. Me and my fiance actually moved back to that same apartment complex since it was cheap and near his job. After about a week of living there, I'm taking out the trash one day to the dumpster, which is next to the bike trail. After I toss the bag in the trash, guess who I see near the bike trail? The same guy, still wearing the same clothes. He had a cell phone to his ear, but it was like an older flip phone, circa 2005 or so. He sounded pissed on the phone and was cursing out somebody on the other end, someone named Lauren. And while he was having a conversation, he was looking right at me. I started backing up. He started to walk towards me. As he was walking, he snapped his phone in half, broke the antenna off, broke the screen, and started tossing the broken fragments all around. I ran back in the building as fast as I could. I don't remember what happened next. All of a sudden, I was in bed in the maternity ward. I had an IV in my arm. My fiance was next to me, and we worked out what happened when I was blacked out. I came home from taking out the trash. I was calm and didn't mention the weird guy. I watched an episode of Battlestar Galactica and then started throwing up a bit. Dang, man, Battlestar Galactica must be a really bad show. I spiked a pretty nasty fever later, so we went to the hospital. Turns out I just had a really bad case of the flu. So that was in 2012. This post was made in 2013. Okay. She had another encounter with the man. She goes on to say, today is Monday, September 9th. I've not seen the man since then until this morning. I heard somebody knocking at the door and I see our dog growling, which is unusual. She never growls. I opened the door and the man in the coat was on the other side, wearing the same down coat. even though it was hot outside. Okay, this dude must be a New Yorker. They wear puffer jackets no matter the situation. I was at the beach once. I saw a dude wearing a puffer jacket in the water. I'm guessing he was also wearing a pair of Timbs. Sorry, got sidetracked. Back to the story. I woke up an hour and a half ago, sitting at my kitchen table. First thing I noticed is that the thermostat had been set to 90 degrees. All of a sudden, I was fully dressed, and my baby was in her crib. She was crying and hadn't been fed or changed. My dog was by the crib whimpering. I fed and changed the baby, and she wasn't hurt. I'm not hurt either, but there's blood on the floor by the door. I wonder if my dog bit him. I don't know. He's gone, and nothing has been stolen. Creepy. Well, if you ever see a strange New Yorker by a hiking trail.
Vabbè, Maronna. Ragazzi, io sono così tanto stanco che quasi quasi io metto le pubblicità. Basta. Allora, parliamo un po'. Allora, io vi dico che domani o gaming oppure una nuova reaction. Ho in mente entrambi, ve lo dico. Allora.
Run. Now, a lot of people in the comments and also myself are wondering, what the heck could this phenomenon possibly be? And many people in the comments seem to think that she either had a brain tumor or some kind of epilepsy, but that doesn't explain how she found pieces of an actual phone in the parking lot or why it only happens every few years since her childhood. Another person offered the suggestion that it could possibly be a real guy using the drug devil's breath or scopolamine. Now, scopolamine sounds like some James Bond bullshit. Like, this does not sound like a real drug, but it's real. So basically, when you blow it into somebody's face and they inhale it, it turns them into a zombie. And they, like, agree to everything that you say, and also they lose their memory. And I know it sounds fake, but check out the Vice documentary on it. This is some real shit, and it's crazy. Other than that, I don't know what it could be besides aliens. Hiding place. This one is absolutely, tremendously, Among Us-ly disgusting. I will be very brief discussing this one. Basically, there was this girl who was in a psych ward because of her severe anorexia. In order to hide food from the hospital staff, she would store it in her punani. And as you can probably guess, nothing good can come of that. I'm not going to go any deeper than that. I would highly recommend you do not look this one up. OP his balls just to make a point. I bleep that word out because I don't know if I'm allowed to use it, but it rhymes with schmorcher. This one's actually pretty funny. So this guy posts an image of some weird chair claiming that it's a homemade electric chair he found in an abandoned building in Croatia. He also said in the comments that there was a bunch of car batteries nearby. Now, there were a bunch of naysayers in the comments saying, oh, that's just a swing. There's no way that's an electric chair. So OP did the only logical thing. He used the chair to electrocute his own Balzac and posted a picture of it. Sure showed those smugs.
Maremma.
Today I fudged up by admitting to my girlfriend that I pretend she's a giant cockroach when we have coitus. Ever since I was a teenager, I have a very intense fantasies about having coitus with a giant roach. Dang, man, this gives a whole new meaning to the word cockroach. Holy moly. Mommy's little girl. I'm a female that breastfed until she was 15. I'm in my 20s now. AMA. Dang, man. I'm glad to know I'm not the only one. Sister.
Allora.
I've had a sustained intimate relationship with both of my sisters. AMA. What are you, a fucking Targaryen? So this guy claims to have entanglements with both his younger sister as well as his twin sister. He says he's from the UK, but this is some Alabama behavior. Now, this post is filled with so much degeneracy that it actually pisses me off. But whatever, I'm going to go through some of the questions and his answers. When asked to describe how the first encounter started, he said they were both drinking wine in the south of France, and then inhibitions were loose, and she made the first move. There are millions of women. Why your sisters? I'm wondering the same shit, my guy. He answers, because I was and still am attracted to them. I was 14, and if there's a possibility of constantly available coitus with an attractive girl, it's an opportunity I wasn't going to turn down. The fact that she was my sister didn't really come into it. It was fun. Plus, have you ever done anything that you know is wrong, but did it anyway? Yeah, I stole a pair of headphones from Walmart, okay? I sure as shit didn't f*** my sister. My brother, on the other hand... Okay, man, for real, I cannot do it with the familial entanglements anymore. This is too weird. Let's move on. Special delivery. Apparently, this dude came home to find a coffin in his driveway. Dang, man, don't you hate when you order coffee online, but they accidentally send you a coffin instead? Now, people were begging him to open up that bad boy, but obviously he was reluctant. It's a fucking coffin.
Se...
in his driveway. But eventually he gave in to the peer pressure and posted the contents of the sarcophagus, and it was a key along with a set of coordinates. And the coordinates were to the Sandweiler German cemetery in Luxembourg. What could this mean? What could this mean? Oh, it's fake. Creepy landlord.
Bene.
A girl named Kimmy moved to a new apartment back in 2012. Her landlord was a sweet older woman who would bring her leftovers every day after she would cook. Kimmy was kind of a recluse, so she didn't go out too much. After a few months of living in this apartment, she started noticing things were not right. They were moving around or just plain disappearing. But she was convinced that this was just her anxiety playing tricks on her. She also noticed she was starting to get drowsy, but blamed this on her medication since it was one of the side effects. One day the landlady brings her a salad, she eats it, and then passes out. After a few hours, she wakes up and notices that her bedding on one side looks weird, almost like somebody was laying in it. And even weirder is that it was warm, but she explained that away as well. A few more months passed, and more of her stuff kept going missing, and she kept noticing a strange odor in the air after she would wake up. This would keep happening until she decided she couldn't take it anymore, so she went to go stay with her parents for a few days to get her mind right. While she was staying with her parents, her dad went to go check on her apartment, and when he went inside, all over the walls was written things like, "Come back," and "Baby, please," and other weird things of that nature. The dad called the police, and after an investigation, it was found that the landlord's son had been drugging the food and sneaking into the girl's apartment. The guy had a whole-ass relationship with this girl in his head that she didn't even know about, and he told investigators that they were in love and that the whole thing was consensual. Again, being a woman sounds terrifying. Evil son. We had another evil son story a few days ago, and this one is just as insane, if not more. Similar situation, parents were loving and tried to raise their kid right. But some people are just born evil, I guess. This kid started shoplifting when he was 15. Despite being caught and punished and going to therapy multiple times, it didn't help. By 16, he was drinking, and not long after, he was leaving bongs and pipes and needles all over the house just to screw with his parents. He also got held back in high school and formed a gang of other juvenile delinquents. He was even entangling with one of the other gang members' sisters, who was only 13 years old. Then one night, he dialed up the evil to 11 when he tried to forcibly entangle with his own mother at knife point. For this, he would only go to prison for a short years, and his mother would divorce OP and take her life a year later. After the son was released from prison, he kept trying to contact OP for money, and every now and then he would claim to be clean and have changed his ways after doing rehab. But it never lasted longer than a few months. You know, man, making this video has made me never want to have kids. Ty cried for help.
Infatti, oh cazzo, ragazzi, siamo al fondo del barile. Io non sono pronto.
Being made over and over again on a lot of different posts. The phrase being used is, "I face serious problem of human rights at Fujita Geek in Thailand. Please help." The only exception is one single comment that's in Japanese, and in English it roughly translates to "power harassment in Thailand." Now, people tried reaching out to this person, but they never responded back. Instead, they just keep making these posts. But let's dig a little deeper. Fujita Giken is a Japanese company which, according to their website, designs various industrial machines. If you look at the Google reviews for the Thai branch of this company, you can see they're swamped with a bunch of one-star reviews with comments confirming that they are indeed committing human rights violations. Homeless Holocaust lover. You remember when you were a kid and you used to do stupid, potentially dangerous stuff because you wouldn't want to be called a pussy? Well, these two kids took that to the extreme. They were exploring a cave in the woods near their houses when they started to notice signs that somebody was living in that cave. Assorted trash, doo-doo, needles, you know, classic homeless person stuff. But then they found some other interesting items. Ball gags, rope, booty beads, among other sick stuff. Hey man, homeless cave orgy's gotta be one of those things that you never think about, but definitely happen. Anyways, as if all that stuff wasn't disturbing enough, OP came upon a photo album which was full of pictures of the Holocaust. Two of these pages in this book were stuck together with a gooey substance. Okay, that is absolutely disgusting. And despite the fact that they saw all this nasty stuff, OP still stayed in that cave for way longer than he should have because he was afraid his friend would call him a pussy. Man, we really need to get rid of this mentality. When I was 15, I let my friends shoot me 5 times with a paintball gun so I wouldn't seem like a weenie. And it freaking hurt, man. I had no padding or anything. I had bruises for like 3 weeks. Anyways, after a while, OP finally built up the nerve to tell his friend that they should get the F out of there. And to his surprise, the friend was like, "Good idea. I wanted to say something sooner, but I didn't want you to think I was a little bitch." You know who else can't sleep? In June of 2013, one One of the worst fires in U.S. history happened near Yarnell, Arizona. The Yarnell Hill fire destroyed half the town, caused almost $1 billion in damages, and claimed the lives of 19 firefighters. This was at the time the highest number of firefighter casualties since 9/11. Now, the fire chief in Yarnell at the time was a man by the name of Jim Coyley, and Coyley's stepdaughter commented on a Reddit post linking an article talking about the fire. She said, "Gah, I can't sleep. My stepdad is the fire chief there. My mom is a paramedic, but firefights too." Another Redditor responded to her comment with a freaking bombshell. "You know who else can't sleep? The 3-year-old daughter your stepdad buried alive and killed. Disgusting." Apparently, Coyley's stepdaughter had no idea about this. She said, "I've known the man almost 30 years, and this is the first I've heard of this." Now, listen to this shit. In 1974, a Maricopa County juror convicted Coyley of manslaughter on the passing of 3-year-old Carla Dahlstead. Coyley was a massive firefighter at the time. According to court records, Coyley said he spanked and pushed Carla, daughter of his live-in girlfriend, Alice Dahlstead. The little girl hit her head on the edge of a crib and was knocked unconscious. Coyley said he was disciplining Carla for lying. Coyley also said he attempted mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and cardiac massage, but he thought Carla was no longer alive. Panicking, Coyley drove the toddler out to the desert near the Mesa dump where he buried her. When the mother came home, Coyley told her that Carla had been abducted or wandered away, court records stated. 6 hours after he buried the toddler's body, Coyley took back his story and admitted that he buried her. As the police dug up the little girl, they discovered she was still alive and transported her to the hospital. Carla passed a day later from brain damage. Judge Charles Rausch reduced Coyley's conviction to involuntary manslaughter after Dahlstead pleaded for leniency. I also want to add that the medical examiner said that she passed from a blow to the head by a fist or a hand, not hitting her head on the edge of a crib. Once news of this got out, possibly because of Reddit, Coyley would lose his job as fire chief. And you know what? This piece of garbage only did 5 years probation for burying a 3-year-old alive. I'm all for forgiveness after serving your time, but this guy served no time. And whatever, man, this makes me mad. Bone in the boot. What dirty little secret of someone else's have you been dying to tell? Former best friend participated in a boot party where they curb stomped a homeless man to the point of no longer being with us. She called me drunk the next morning to laugh about it. I never spoke to her again. I know groupthink is powerful and that the Sharps are basically a gang, but I could never wrap my head around that. I'll always be grateful I wasn't there. Now, let's add a little bit of context. A boot party is an event in which skinheads brutally kick somebody with steel-toed boots. The Sharps, referenced in this comment, are skinheads against racial prejudice, which, you know, shout out to them for not being racist, but I guess they're still a gang and they still participate in some messed up gang activities like boot parties. Whew, we made it, man. That's about it, guys. I know this was long, so thank you for sticking through it. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. And again, this is my last iceberg video I'm doing this year. No, but seriously, guys, thank you. This year has been crazy. Bugiardo. This time last year, I had 20 subs. And now I have 50,000, which is insane. So thank you guys for sticking with me all year. Hopefully next year I can do another 50. So yeah, in 2022, I plan on doing more content that I find interesting, like history and weird conspiracies, commentary, things of that nature. So keep an eye out for that. And thank you guys again. I could not do it without you. Later.
Okay. Ragazzi, basta. Ci vediamo domani. Basta. Io me ne vado. Ci vediamo domani. Sopravvissuto a sto video, non ci credo. Ci vediamo domani con il gameplay e ho in mente la reaction. Vedrò cosa fare di due. O ve li beccate entrambi, non si sa. Ragazzi, a luglio. Vabbè, noi ci vediamo. Ciao.